What is going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. So today's video is going to be all about how to do your oil filter housing gasket. Now, if you missed my video, my cooling system overhaul part 1, check it out if you want to see kind of what I did. Going into today's video, I already have the radiator out, the fan shroud out, the clutch fan out, the water pump out, the thermostat housing out. All of that's out of the way. So you don't have to do all of that. I'm already kind of in here doing cooling system work, and so I figured I'd film this video and show you guys how to also do your oil filter housing gasket while I'm in there. While you could see a lot of stuff, I can kind of point out things to look for. So that way, if maybe you aren't taking everything out, but you still want to know like what bolts you need to take out and where everything is located, I could walk you guys through that. So yeah, let's get into the engine bay and kind of talk about what I've already done and then what I have to do to continue taking the oil filter housing out. Here we go. All right, so here we are looking at the oil filter housing and oil filter housing assembly, everything down here. As you can see, like I said, I do have a ton of stuff out already because I am doing pretty much a full cooling system overhaul. Again, if you didn't catch my part 1 of my cooling system overhaul video, feel free to check it out. I kind of walk through this process a little bit of removing this stuff. Now, I don't think you have to remove everything to gain access to your oil filter housing, but at the very least, you are gonna have to take your belts off because your alternator has to come out. Your power steering pump down there does have to be unbolted. And then there are probably some bolts on the side you're gonna have to get access to. And it might be a little bit tight if you keep your radiator and clutch fan in here, but you know, if you are planning on doing this, maybe it's a good time to do your cooling stuff. And if you're doing your cooling stuff, it may be a good time to do your oil filter housing gasket. Now, as far as how to remove it, the stage I guess that I'm at with this is I've already taken the alternator out, but I kind of put it back in to show you what you gotta do to take yours out. On top here is this pulley that the belt rides on. There's a 16mm bolt that you have to take out, and hopefully your car still has the little dust cover. Mine did. I took it off already, but you just kind of pry the dust cover off that covers this bolt, and then you can get this. And then on the bottom right there, you can see it underneath the pulley, there is a 17mm bolt. You want to take that out. Again, I already have mine out. And then once you have both of those out, you should be able to take your alternator out. Let me see if I could do this one-handed here. Bear with me while I unscrew this a little bit. Okay, once you have both of those out, you could take the alternator and kind of flip it like this, and then you're gonna have your power and ground that go to these little like terminals right here. This is held on, this is the negative, this is gonna be held on by a 10mm nut, and this is your positive, and this is gonna be held on by a 13mm nut. Once you have them out, which they look like these right here, then you can take the alternator out of the way. I'm gonna go ahead and move this and kind of start taking out whatever else I think needs to come out, and then I'll walk you guys through that process when I get there. All right, so I just took off the belt tensioner for one of the two belts. It kind of sits in the car sort of like this, right? There's a bolt on top and a bolt on the bottom. Both are 13mm, and you're gonna have to take them off to be able to take this off, but you can't get access to that bolt unless you use a wrench. But if you're trying to use a socket like I did and a ratchet, you're gonna have to take this pulley off. That bolt there, I took it off with a T50 socket. I don't know if that's the actual size because the socket kind of got stuck in the bolt, but it was able to take it off. Be mindful on the back, there's a washer right here. You don't wanna lose that. Make sure you keep it with the pulley when you take it off. But then yeah, you'll have access to the 13mm bolt on the bottom, the 13mm bolt on top, and then you will have more room down there, and you are one step closer to taking this housing out. So I'm gonna go ahead and start loosening up the power steering pump, and then kind of figuring out how many of these connectors I have to take off and whatever else, and then I will kind of point out what bolts you have to take out to actually take the housing out, or off of the engine block rather. All right, so I just took out, or rather left hanging, the power steering pump. There are 3 bolts that hold it in place. There's the 2 on top here that you see sticking out. I just put them back here so I don't lose them. And then there's one on the back. Once I get it focused, yeah, right there you could see it. So that one I just loosened. I'm not gonna take it out. And then if you leave that loose and then take these bolts out, you can kind of hang the power steering pump out of the way. Again, I put these back so I don't lose them, but as you can see, it's not connected to the oil filter housing anymore, so I should be able to take it out as it is with the pump hanging. I mean, there's a few more things I have to take off, but you don't have to fully take all of the bolts out of the power steering pump to be able to take it, or the oil filter housing out. So anyways, also, as you can see, hopefully you can kind of tell, but you can just see how caked up back here is. So I'm like 99% sure that my gasket for this housing has been leaking for however long. I'm kind of excited to get it off and see, just because, you know, it will have made this job worthwhile. If it is brand new and someone just didn't clean this, then I kind of did this for nothing, but at the very least I get to make a video for you guys. But nonetheless, like I said, it's absolutely covered in oil. So while the oil filter housing is off, I'm gonna try to clean this as best I can as well. I do think I have a couple more things. There is a connector back there that you can see right there, and then there is an oil line right here that bolts down to the back of the oil filter housing. So I might just take this bolt out right here and see if I can't take it out once I get the bolts out of the housing. So let me see what else I got to do, and then I will update you guys once I know and can show you. All right, as you can see, I have the oil filter housing out of the car. I also went through and cleaned this area as best as I could. It looks amazing, man. You saw the clips before. It was absolutely caked with oil and dirt and stuff, but it's all clean. The oil filter housing, I'm gonna take it to work and clean it off, but as you can see, there's 2 holes at the top, 2 holes in the middle, and 2 holes in the bottom. There are 6 13mm bolts that hold this on. And let me see if I could do this without losing you in the exposure, but here is the oil filter housing right here. And if you look on the back side, that would be the gasket right there. Let me see if I could hold this straight up. As you can see, the gasket is literally not even sticking out anymore. So that gasket is completely failed. This has been leaking like crazy. You could see there's a ton of oil on this thing. That's why I'm gonna take it to work and clean it off. But yeah, it's not super difficult. Like I was mentioning earlier in the video, I don't think you have to take everything off that I have taken off, but it definitely makes it a ton easier if you do. Also gives you a ton of access down here to kind of clean everything as best as you can. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that to work, clean the oil filter housing off, get it back here, and put it back on the car and have this, you know, part of this job, part of the maintenance that I'm doing on the car this weekend, and we can call it done. So here we go. All right, the oil filter housing is officially all bolted down. I have the alternator back in, I have the power steering pump bolted down, and yeah, I think that sums up this job. The oil filter housing gasket is replaced, and I am happy that I did it while everything was apart. So yeah, I think that about sums it up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed kind of the walkthrough on that. I know it was probably not the most in-depth video. I tried to, like I keep saying, I am kind of in the middle of a few different projects, a few different videos, but I did want to film that for you guys. If, you know, this is the video you find and it helps you do your oil filter housing gasket, then I'm glad it helped. But yeah, if you made it this far in the video, as usual, I appreciate you checking it out. Thank you for watching. Definitely consider liking, subscribing, commenting, turning on post notifications, all of the things, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.